when the soul grows tired of trying. There are moments in life when it's not just failure that hurts, it's the weariness. It hurts to have tried everything and seen no results. You've followed advice, read books, looked for signs, and still, something inside you feels stuck. It's not laziness, nor a lack of faith. It's the weight of carrying an unfulfilled desire. Many believe that prosperity is solely a matter of effort, but that's not always the case. There are those who work tirelessly, and yet abundance doesn't arrive. Solomon, who knew both glory and emptiness, would teach us that true prosperity isn't born from doing more, but from looking deeper. From where do you act? For what purpose do you act? Is your soul aligned with your actions, or are you just surviving on autopilot? Today, we're not going to add more tasks to your list. We're going to clear the path, because sometimes what prevents something from flourishing isn't the soil, nor the seed. It's a buried root that no longer serves a purpose. Listen carefully. Perhaps what you lack isn't more effort, but a new direction. Prospering without purpose is like running aimlessly. Not all roads lead home, and not all effort leads to fulfillment. Many people fully commit to the goal of prospering, but when they stop to observe, they don't truly know what they're looking for. Success, recognition, stability, or simply escaping an emptiness they can't name. Solomon said, "The plans of the diligent surely lead to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes to poverty." The problem isn't trying, it's not knowing from where or for what purpose. Prospering without purpose is like running with your eyes blindfolded. You can move a lot, but without direction, the soul wears out. Many confuse prosperity with accumulation. But what good is having more if you feel less? What value does gold have if you can't sleep in peace? True prosperity is born from a purpose that connects you with yourself, with others, and with something higher than yourself. Purpose isn't something found externally, in a job offer or a motivational book. Purpose is remembered because it was always within you, sometimes covered by haste, by comparison, or by wounds. But it's still there, waiting for you to stop running for everything and start walking with yourself. A divided heart sabotages any sowing. Have you ever sown with hope, but harvested with frustration? Sometimes it's not the soil that fails, it's the sower. Because when the heart is divided, energy doesn't flow, it scatters. Solomon knew this, and that's why he said, "A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." You can't move forward when one part of you wants to continue, and another wants to flee. Often that divided heart is born of fear. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of being abandoned if you change. And while a part of you wants to grow, another clings to the familiar zone, even if it hurts. This internal tug-of-war tires you more than any external obstacle. True prosperity requires coherence. That what you think, feel, and do go in the same direction. If you sow a seed but doubt its fruit, you are sabotaging its growth. If you embark on a project but keep looking back, you are not available for the present. Solomon would say, before asking more from life, check what part of you still doesn't believe it deserves to receive. Because you prosper not only by what you do, but by what you are willing to sustain. And for that your heart must be whole, not divided. Excessive noise kills intuition. We live surrounded by voices, advice, comparisons, influencers, gurus, all telling you what to do, how to be, where to go. But amidst so much noise, when was the last time you listened to yourself? Solomon, wise among the wise, wrote, "In the multitude of words sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is prudent." Because sometimes, it's not that you lack direction, it's that you can't hear it. Your intuition, that serene voice that lives deep within, doesn't shout, it whispers. And if your life is saturated with external opinions, you'll end up walking paths that aren't yours, seeking goals that don't resonate with your soul. Noise doesn't just distract you, it distances you from yourself. Many don't prosper because they are disconnected from their inner compass. They decide out of fear, out of haste, or out of a need for approval. But true wisdom is not found in the crowd, it is revealed in silence. Solomon would tell you, turn off the noise, not because others are wrong, but because only in silence can you distinguish the true from the urgent. Only there will you discover what prosperity is for you, not for others. And from that place, everything changes. Prospering without rest is another form of impoverishment. In a culture that glorifies exhaustion, many confuse burnout with success. They believe that prosperity means being busy all the time, sacrificing body, mind, and soul in the name of progress. But Solomon, who had more wealth than any king, said something profoundly counterintuitive: better a handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. What good is having both hands full if the soul is empty? What kind of prosperity is it that robs you of peace, sleep, and affection? We live believing that the more we do, the more we are worth. But Solomon would remind you that it's not the quantity, but the quality. That it's not external noise that determines your wealth, but the silence you can sustain within yourself. Rest is not a reward, it's part of the journey. It is in rest that the soul reorganizes, where the body regenerates, and the mind clears. If you don't know how to stop, you also won't know how to recognize when you have enough. Prospering isn't about moving forward at all costs. It's about knowing when to move and when to stand still, because even the most fertile seasons of the earth need winter, and so do you. When you don't heal your wounds, you sabotage your blessings. There are times when life seems willing to give to you, but you are not ready to receive. Not because you don't deserve it, but because you carry open wounds that make you distrust even what is good. And Solomon knew this. That's why he said, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." He didn't say to guard your gold or your time, but your heart, because if the heart is damaged, everything it touches is distorted. Unhealed wounds make you see the world through broken lenses. You might have a good opportunity and think it's a trap. You might meet someone who values you and believe they will abandon you at any moment. You might be about to achieve something important and self-sabotage without knowing why. You don't prosper because you carry the past with you like an invisible backpack. Childhood wounds, old betrayals, harsh words that still resonate. And as long as you don't name them, they will continue to control your life from the shadows. The unrecognized wound becomes a pattern, and the pattern, destiny. Solomon would tell you that healing is not a luxury, it's a condition for receiving. Because a wounded soul doesn't know how to sustain blessings. Not because it can't, but because it still believes it doesn't deserve them. Healing doesn't begin when everything is going well. It begins when you dare to look within, with compassion, and say, "I no longer want to keep repeating this." And there, in that moment of awareness, true prosperity begins. Fear of judgment blocks the flow of your gift. There are people with talent, with ideas, with sensitivity, who do not prosper, not because they lack ability, but because they fear being seen. They fear judgment, criticism, rejection, and because of that fear they hide, they sabotage themselves, they shrink. Solomon would say, "The fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe." In other words, the fear of what others will say traps you like an invisible snare. Many do not grow because they still live seeking approval. They do what they think will please, not what is born from the soul. They publish what is trending, not what burns within. But prospering without authenticity is like building a house without foundations. Sooner or later, it falls apart, and the saddest part is not losing, but losing yourself along the way. The judgment of others hurts, of course it does. But it hurts more not to give yourself permission to be who you truly are. Living to please is a silent way of dying inside, because if you don't show yourself as you are, the world will never receive what only you can offer. Solomon would invite you to look honestly. What part of you is still hidden by fear? What gift are you not sharing for fear of criticism? The world doesn't need another copy, it needs your originality, your voice, your story. I'm not asking you to ignore fear, I'm asking you not to put it in the driver's seat, to listen to it, but not to give it the steering wheel. Because only when you free yourself from judgment, does your gift begin to flow, and with it, true prosperity. Prosperity begins with giving, not receiving. Most people associate prosperity with receiving. More money, more recognition, more things. But Solomon, who lived surrounded by riches, discovered a different truth. One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. A phrase that seems contradictory, but contains a powerful principle. The flow of life begins when you give. It's not about giving out of obligation, or giving yourself away until you're empty. It's about understanding that the soul flourishes when it becomes a channel, not a reservoir. When you give what you know, what you have, what you are, you connect with something greater, and it is in that connection that true abundance is born. Many don't prosper because they still live with a scarcity mindset. If I give, I'll have nothing left. But life doesn't reward those who accumulate, but those who trust, those who sow, those who share. Because prosperity is not an object, it is a state of being, and that state is activated when you dare to step out of yourself and touch the world. Giving is not just a matter of money. Sometimes your greatest act of prosperity is to offer your listening, your time, your comfort, your wisdom. Solomon would remind you, the more you give from a whole heart, the more you receive from above. Not because you seek it, but because it is a law of life. Prospering is about opening your hands, not just to receive, but also to let go. You don't prosper because you haven't yet decided to flourish. There's an uncomfortable truth that many don't dare to look at. You're not stuck due to a lack of resources, but due to a lack of internal decision. Not a superficial decision, made from the mind, but a deep resolution of the soul that says, I am ready to flourish, even if it hurts, even if everything changes, even if I'm afraid. Solomon, with all his wisdom, expressed it clearly. The soul of the diligent will be prospered, but the diligence he spoke of is not just external action, it is internal consistency. It is faithfulness to oneself. Because there are those who say they want to prosper, but deep down they still don't allow themselves to. They still doubt their worth. They are still afraid to shine and lose the love of those who couldn't see them. Indecision is not neutral, it is a form of self-sabotage. As long as you don't fully commit to yourself, everything you do will be halfway. You will seek results without having fully given yourself. And life, like the earth, does not bear fruit where there is no real sowing. To flourish is an act of courage. It is accepting that you are no longer the same person who survived, who begged for love, who settled. It is taking a step towards yourself, even if you don't yet see the complete path. Solomon would tell you, don't wait for everything to be clear. Decide today to flourish, even with doubts. Because the soul that decides, finds the how. Your moment won't come when everything is perfect. It will come when you say, I'm not going to hide from myself anymore. And there, without noise, your true prosperity begins. Conclusion. Prosperity doesn't always arrive because you haven't recognized it yet. Not everything that seems like stagnation is punishment. Sometimes it's a pause. Sometimes it's life giving you time to see yourself, to heal, to reconnect with what truly matters. Solomon wouldn't invite you to do more, but to be more. To review your heart, your intention, your fears and your wounds, because true prosperity doesn't begin externally, but in the soul that has decided to flourish without anyone's permission. Perhaps today you don't have all the answers, but if you've listened this far, it's because something within you is already awakening. Something that doesn't want to settle, that doesn't want to keep surviving. Something that longs for fullness, not just success. And if that something is alive, then you are already on your way. Remember, not everything you tried failed. Perhaps you did it from a place that no longer exists today. Now it's time to walk from another place, from truth, from your center, from your purpose. If this reflection touched something within you, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment, what part of you feels ready to flourish, and share this message with someone who also needs to remember that their soul deserves to prosper, in every sense. Because Solomon no longer walks among us, but his wisdom still whispers, where there is silence to listen.